Welcome everybody to today's session. This video is going to talk specifically about how the stages of grief are experienced when it comes to a limb loss or being an amputee. When one loses a limb, this is a loss, and you experience the same stages of grief as one does when they lose a loved one through death. And so I want to make sure you have a clear understanding of what the stages of grief are, and again, what to expect as you move through it. Just like I said in the video on understanding trauma and amputation, how everybody experiences trauma differently, this is the same when experiencing grief as well. Everybody goes through and experiences the stages of grief in their own way and in their own time. So this video is just going to give you a brief overview of those stages, and again, what you may expect as you go through them. The stages of grief can be viewed like this graph. Unfortunately though, it's not this linear. It's going to be quite different once we start looking at it. So let's look at the stages of grief. The first stage of grief is shock and denial. Everybody that experiences an amputation experiences shock and denial. This can come in a lot of forms, but a lot of it is just that initial, I can't believe this has happened or is going to happen. And it just doesn't seem real. Life seems very surreal. And so in this stage, it may take a while to really grasp the finality of what's happened and to realize how life is going to be different moving forward. Because that's the reality. Life will be different moving forward. It can be a good life still, and it can be great, and you can thrive. It just will be different. The next stage is bargaining. Probably those that are experiencing an illness like diabetes and know that the amputation is coming up may go through the bargaining stage. And a lot of people do their bargaining with God or their higher power, kind of saying something to the effect of, if you can just let me keep my limb, I'll change my life. I'll do this or I'll do that. And they go through this period of bargaining, hoping that the inevitable won't happen. Those that experience an amputation from an accident and have it done suddenly and unexpectedly probably don't go through the bargaining stage all that much. The next stage experienced is usually anger. And this is where we really just start to get angry and resentful. And these angry feelings can be towards a lot of people. From an illness, it could be towards ourselves for not taking care of ourselves. It could be towards our family for our genetics. It could be towards our doctors who maybe didn't do all that we thought they should do to keep us from losing our limb. But regardless of where the anger is at or towards, we do experience a lot of anger. And you need to know that this is very normal. Again, don't get upset with yourself for being angry. I tell people all the time, give yourself permission to be angry. It's part of the grieving process. And if we try to skip it, or we try to say we're not angry or we're not experiencing any of that at all, we might be fooling ourselves. Now again, you may not be angry, and that's okay too. It doesn't mean you have to experience every one of these stages, but again, most people will experience them in one way or another, or at some point or another. And as said in one of the other videos, it may not happen right away. You may feel really positive in the beginning, but as time goes on, people find that about a year later, they start to feel some of these feelings and start to go through the grieving process a little delayed, but it does come. So if and when it does, don't be alarmed, allow it to happen. And going through these experiences, it may be useful to talk to a professional as you work through these stages. And it's also important, as we talked about in the coping strategies video, to have a good support team around you and to have good self-care skills that allows you to deal with these emotions effectively. The next stage in the stages of grief is depression. And so once we've experienced anger, we can experience some feelings of sadness, depression, and even hopelessness at times. And again, this is very normal part of the grieving process. We have just lost a part of us, and that is huge. So as you go through the stages of grief and you experience each one of these stages, you'll know that you're going through a very specific process. And again, each one of these is important for the healing process to be complete. The final stage in the stages of grief is acceptance. This is where we get to the place that we've accepted what's happened, we're moving on, we really are in an emotional and physical stable place, and we're no more bothered on a regular basis by what's happened, and we're functioning effectively, and we're thriving again in life. Now, I wish I could say that going through the stages of grief is a linear process as shown here on the board. If it were that easy, that would be great. Then you would know, oh, I'm at this stage, then I'll be at this stage, and then eventually I'll get acceptance, or if I'm there to stay. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And if there's been any time since you've had your amputation, you know that this is the case. It really looks more like this. It's kind of a roller coaster, and you might stay in one for a little bit, then bounce out, stay in another one for a little bit. And every day you can go through a wide range of emotions. And if not every day, every few days, every week. But the process goes like this for a little while. And so if you're feeling like you're going crazy, or that you thought you were further along, and then all of a sudden you're back to crying or being angry or experience shock and denial again, that's okay too. That's how the grieving process works. It is a roller coaster, and it does take time. How much time? Well, I don't know. Again, everybody is different. Some people can get through it rather quickly. Others can take a long time. Now, it's important, again, that if you feel you're stuck at any one of these stages, I would strongly encourage seeing a healthcare professional. That going to counseling, talking to a therapist can, again, help you manage and understand how you're going through the grieving process. It is a process, and it does take time. Just know that you're not alone, and that anybody who's lost something, and especially all those in the amputee community, really know what this is all about. So that's what I want you to understand in this video, is that there are stages. It's not linear. It does go forward and backward and up and down. And again, it is a roller coaster of emotion. And if you feel that way, that's okay. That's normal. Allow yourself to feel these feelings. Give yourself permission to have these feelings. It is okay. So here are the stages of grief and how they relate to experiencing an amputation. And yes, these stages also for a lot of other losses and grieving in life. But again, losing a limb or a digit or any part of our body is, again, a traumatic experience. It's a real loss, and it takes time to heal. So at the end of the day, what I really want you to do is to have hope. I want you to have hope that life can get back to some normalcy. Again, it will be different. You will have to cope with a new way of living for the most part, or for many, but that you can live a full, exciting, and thriving life in spite of your amputation. I've worked with many people that have done this. And I'm sure you've talked to many people that have done this. And if you're at a place that you're feeling a little hopeless, I hope this gives you hope. If you're already there where you have hope, then fantastic. Give back and help others who are feeling hopeless where they're at. I hope you've liked this video. Please add a comment. Share with me how you've experienced the stages of grief, or more importantly, share with the community how you've experienced it, and give hope to those who may be watching and struggling. Until next time, make it a great day and make it a great week.